Hi everybody, Charles here. Welcome to Backroads Living. In today's video, we're going to be talking about a lights out situation. Doesn't have to be a grid down, just a lights out situation. So let's see what we may need in those circumstances. The first thing we want to talk about when we're talking about a lights out situation, and let's explain this, that I'm not talking about a grid down. Although it could be, it's not a necessity. We're seeing right now a huge snowstorm move across the northern and northeastern part of the United States, and it's going to be dumping up to 2 foot of snow in the New York area, and there no doubt will be some power outages up there. And in that situation, people's going to have to get by somehow, and everybody needs to have some things ready for a power outage. Now, Sandy and I experienced a 3-day power outage here back in April of 2020, and we had the things we needed to get by with. Of course, the first thing that you always need is food. You gotta have food to eat, and you've gotta have water to drink, and we'll get on into the water in just a minute. But the reason I mentioned food is in this list, we're assuming that you already have your pantry filled. That you have enough food put back to do you for several weeks in an emergency, because we never know when we're going to have to depend on our pantry to feed us, whether it be sickness or death or job loss or injuries or things like that. We just never know. So we're assuming in this video that you already have some food put back in your pantry. But the first thing I would want to mention here are batteries. You need batteries in a power outage situation, whether it be regular batteries or rechargeable batteries. You need batteries for things such as flashlights and radios and those kind of things. You need an inverter. Now, Sandy and I have a 750 watt inverter that won't run our refrigerator. I would assume you would probably need up to a 2,000 watt inverter in order to run a refrigerator much at all, and I'm not really sure that that would do it, but it's possible. You'd want to get online and research that. But right now we're talking about things that we were able to do with a inverter was keep our lights on and run our electronics such as our internet and things like that. That worked just fine on a 750 watt inverter. But again, we don't know. I know that won't run a refrigerator, and I'm not sure that a 2,000 watt would, but it's possible. You'd want to look into it. That would be close. But another thing that I'd recommend that you have, if you live in an area or in a situation where you can have one, is a generator. And if you have a generator, then you're going to have gas in order to run your generator. You'll need 4 or 5 gallons of 5-gallon jugs of gasoline put back for that. Now again, we brought our car around and ran an extension cord through our window to our appliances or to our electronics. So we ran our car, which still yet, whether you're running your car or whether you're running your generator, you've got to have gasoline for either or. So either way, you've got to have some gasoline. Now, if you're going to have a long-term storage for gas, if you figure you're going to do that, then you're going to need some gas treatment. They make that you can pick it up. It's called I think it's a PRI gas treatment that you can put in your gas and make it last for a couple of years, maybe even longer than that. But that's something to think about. If you want to go ahead and get gas and get it put back, be a good idea to do that. Now, you know, you may not be living in these areas right now, and you may not be having a power outage right now, but at some point you may have a power outage. You may have a storm. Who knows what could happen. You could have a power outage that you need to have lights. You need to have your electronics working. You need to be able to call people. If you're like us and you have a cell phone and you don't live in an area where you get a signal, and you have to have a cell phone booster, or you have to have a router to use with your telephone, then you've got to have power to run that router. So that's something to think about. You need to have gasoline. You need to have batteries for lights. You need to have gas and a generator if you can afford one. There's other things that you could get that would be even better than those things I mentioned, but we're going to talk about the necessities today to just try to get by the best you can. things that you would really need. Again, we want to talk about batteries for your flashlights, and when we talk about that, we need to talk about lighting. And one of the things I'd recommend is those headlamps, the ones that you wear over your head like the miners used to have, that has the light up here. Some of them have 2 lights. That way it frees up your hands. If you're having to do things, if you're having to get out and work around the house, if something's happened, then your hands are free when you've got those headlamps. And if you're in the house having to do things, cook and do things like that. See, we were still able to cook on our cooktop even though the power's out, because we have gas, natural gas here, and our range is a gas range, so we could still light our cooktops and you know, fix stuff on the top of the stove. So a headlamp was really handy for that thing like that. Also, propane lanterns, if you've got good ventilation. Now, this is very important. Don't fire up a propane lantern in the house. You've got to have good ventilation to run propane in any enclosed area. They're great for outdoor lighting, but I would not recommend them inside the house. But if you're outside of the night and having to do things, propane is a great thing. Battery rechargers are great if you have you know, batteries that are chargeable, especially the solar battery rechargers. You can set them outside, and but you've got to have a converter, of course, to run to your battery recharger. But you can recharge batteries using a solar panel if you have a solar panel, and those things are really good to have. Another thing is a way to cook. Now, if the power grid goes out and you don't have natural gas like we have, and everything in your home is electric, and your range is electric, you're not going to be able to cook. Yes, you can eat your stuff right out of the can. You can eat it cold. That stuff's already ready to eat. It just doesn't taste near as good when it's cold, but in an emergency, you could if you had to. So what I'd recommend is that you have a grill with some charcoal, or that you have one of those rocket stoves. You can make a rocket stove out of concrete block, cinder block as they call them. If you live out in the country somewhere where you've got room to do that outside, you can certainly make a rocket stove out of that. If you're confined to an apartment or somewhere, you could get one of those small propane stoves. Of course, you want to be able to open your window. You need good ventilation when you do stuff like that. But you need some kind of something to heat food with, and to cook with when the power goes out. A good hot meal, buddy, it just does wonders for you when you're down like that. I know that Sandy and I fixed hot meals 2 or 3 times a day during that whole time. It was just a comforting to be able to do that and feed yourself without any kind of electricity, and it was just, I didn't like it. But you know what? We could go back to it and live that way if we had to. That's just how it is. But you need something to cook on. I'd recommend you having cast iron, either a cast iron skillet and possibly a cast iron Dutch oven. Those things are just invaluable. You can use those over any kind of heat anywhere. You can use them. I use my cast iron skillets to make biscuits on top of the stove with during that power outage. They were delicious. You can use cast iron on your grill. You can use cast iron on your rocket stove. You can build a fire outside in the yard, a campfire, and cook with cast iron on that. Cast iron is just the most wonderful, diverse cookware ever made. It's just great stuff. I'd recommend everybody having cast iron, whether you have a power outage or not. It's great to cook in. Another thing is shelter. Now, when the power goes out, if it's in the winter especially, you're going to need to concentrate on trying to put yourself, your pets, your entire family in one room if you can. If you don't have a decent backup source of heat, you're going to need to hopefully have a propane heater that's vent-free, ventless propane heater that you can use propane with, and concentrate, close off doors to the house, to rooms that you're not using. Hang blankets over them if you need to keep the air from coming through. There's all kinds of things you can do to cover your windows. People use bubble wrap to cover the windows for insulation. They use blankets to cover the windows. They use garbage bags to tape over the windows. There's all kinds of things you can do to help keep air out when a situation like that arises. But you can use blankets, like I said, to cover windows, anything like that. Sleeping bags are great for these situations. They're compact and they're made for cold and for and for really cold situations. So you'd need that. You'd need, of course, if you have a kerosene heater. I said propane, I meant kerosene. You'd need a kerosene heater, ventless kerosene heater, and you'd want to have kerosene for that. You need plenty of kerosene. You don't know how long the power is going to be out, so probably get you 20 to 40 gallons of kerosene if it's at all possible. Another thing we want to talk about here when we're talking about the food is water. You've got to have water. You don't know how long the power is going to be out. You need 1 gallon of water per person per day. So if you've got 3 people in the house, you need 3 gallons of water per day. If you're going to be out for 7 days, then it would take 21 gallons of water per person. We need to consume that much water each day. Not only that, but you might want to try to put back extra water for cooking, for cleaning, for things like that. You don't know how long the power is going to be out, and if you don't have paper plates, and that's something I'd recommend picking up, is paper plates and plastic cups for situations when you have a grid out or power outage, because it saves on water. You don't have to worry about heating water to wash dishes and things like that. You can just get rid of your plates in the trash, of course. You need a water filter of some kind to filter your water. If you don't have water available, you need a stream, you need a pond, you need somewhere where you can get water from. And if it's not a freshwater source, then you're going to have some way to filter your water. You need water filters of some sort. Some people use the big Berkey water filters that you can put 5 to 10 gallon in those, and it'll filter the water for you. Everybody can't afford one of those, and if that's the circumstances, then maybe you want to purchase those water filters that you can just drink or fill up like a 2-liter bottle or something, and screw the water filter right on top of it and drink out of the jug that way, and it filters the water as you drink. So they make all kinds of this stuff. It's all online. We have links in our description box below for water filters. If you don't have them, you can find them there. That's just something that you've got to have. Everybody has to have water to survive. You can survive much longer without food than you can water. Another thing I'd recommend that you have for when you have a grid out like that or a power out situation is a good transistor radio. I know a lot of people buy radios that have crank handles on them that they can crank and it recharges their battery. But those cranks can break, so you definitely need to have a radio that will run on battery also, even if it has a crank on it. So a really good transistor radio goes a long way with a good battery in it. And if the transistor radio has a UHF and VHF band on it, so much better, so that you maybe can find out things beyond your local area. The other thing is anytime there's a power outage, especially when you live in big cities, there's people who look to take advantage of that. And whether you live in a big city or not, we've got people right here. Now, we live out in the country. We're probably 9 or 10 miles out of the city, and we live a mile up a side road off the main highway. But we have people around here that if they can take advantage of certain circumstances, they most certainly will. We've had things stolen here before, and our neighbors around us have had things stolen. So it really doesn't matter where you live. People will take advantage of situations if they can, but in the larger cities, it seems like that increases dramatically when you have a lights out situation. So you want to have something to defend yourself with. You want to have something that you can hold in your hand and it shoots peas, those high-powered peas, and you need to have a lot of peas to shoot through your pea shooter. And if you don't have one of them, I'd recommend you get something that like you'd hunt squirrels with, and bird hunting and those kind of things, one of those long barrel ones that you hold up to your shoulder. You need to have, ammunition for those things too. So it really doesn't matter. You need to have something like that to protect yourself with. We sell those, which is not, now I wouldn't recommend these to really protect yourself if somebody broke in your house, because it's really not going to help you. Is those personal protection devices we sell. But out in a situation where you're outside of your home and you're in a grocery store, you're somewhere like that, and you're coming back to your car and somebody tries to assault you, that might ward them off. But now I would not recommend something like that to use as a home defense, because it just won't do it. They're wonderful in their environment, but a home defense is not their environment. You need something more powerful than that. So again, you need a good weapon of some kind to protect your home with, and you also need, during that time, if the water, see, when you have a power outage, I guess a lot of it depends on whether it's a grid out and where the power's out, what it affects. Now, the power that went out here back in April of 2020 did not affect our water supply source. The water company we get our water from, their power remained on. So we was still getting water, running water, you know, our faucets and everything, our water tank stayed full with no problem. But if you have a power outage that affects your power plant, then you may not be able to get water. And you may not be able to have running water like that. And I would recommend that for those situations that you have a spare 5-gallon bucket sitting around somewhere, you might want to get you a pool noodle and get you a garbage bag that'll fit in that bucket and lap over the sides to make you a toilet out of, because you're still going to have to use the bathroom during the time the lights are out, and sanitation will be a big thing during that time. And those are just things that you need to think about, and it's not something you have to put on show in the house where everybody's going to see it, you know, and say, well, what's that bucket there for? No, you don't have to do that. You can just keep them, everything put aside, put everything down in your bucket that you're going to need in your sanitary situation, like your trash bags and your maybe even cat litter, lime, whatever it might be. But those things could really come in handy. A bucket with a lid, a pool noodle cut to fit around the lip of the bucket, and a garbage bag to put down in it, cat litter to put in on top of it, if it's not something you're going to empty right now. But those are just some things to think about. If you have other things that you have in mind that you'd like to add to this, be sure to leave your comments in the comment section below, and let's encourage each other to be ready at all times, no matter what happens, and whether the lights go out for just a day or 2 days or a week, or whether it's a grid out for a month or two, we need to be ready to look into that. And I know somebody's going to mention candles when it comes to lighting, but I've really quit trying to encourage candles so much because of children, especially if you have children. They could be a hazard, a fire hazard. If you live alone, you and your wife, like Sandy and I do, we have candles. We're very cautious with them. We're very careful what we do with them. But now if we had kids running through the house, we wouldn't be burning candles. So those are things, you have to use your own judgment in these things, and just be careful with them, because some things will work for me that won't work for you, and some things will work for you that may not work for me. So leave your comments below. Be sure to subscribe to the channel, like the channel, and share us with your social media friends. Click that bell icon when it comes up so that you'll be notified when we post new videos. And we love you guys and pray for you, and we ask you to continue to pray for us in all things that we do. And until then, we'll see you in the next video.